Welcome back to another vlog. My name is SAJJAD IMTIAZ and today I've come to the Merchant and Drovers Tavern in Rahway, New Jersey. And this is a very historical monument, especially if we talk about the American history or if we talk about the history of New Jersey. But I'm going to talk about all of that, but after I walk inside. Just so you guys know, this is the hours of operation, and then you can just make an appointment and come in and see the historical building yourself. So when we enter, on the right we have a bar, and this bar was restored. However, the style of the bar is original to the time when the tavern was here. And after that, let me just talk about the history first. So initially this place was built in 1790, and then basically for about 2 to 5 years this was a residential building. It wasn't as big as it is right now. It was used, so the lower portion of the building was a store, and then there was housing on the top. But then eventually between 1795 and maybe 1798, they basically turned this whole place into a tavern where this room served as the bar, and then the room across was basically the parlor. And eventually in the mid 1800s they took away this chimney, and then they also take down this parlor over here and then changed it with the modern parlor, modern bar. But when the restoration began, they restored the building or the room to its original design, because when they were doing the restoration they found some design in the bottom on the floor, and from that they were sure, this is where the parlor was or the bar was. But now comes to the name of the tavern. So there is a myth that goes around that maybe the name was confused with another location nearby, because the name was given in the mid 1900s, around like 1960s, where they were looking at the map from mid 1800s and they saw a nearby location and they confused it with that one, because the name was Mechanics and Drovers. And from there there is some rumor that they picked up this name, or Merchant and Drovers, and that's how this place got its name. But then there is another rumor about this location, that the George Washington during the Revolutionary War he stayed over here. But that's a total lie. It's just a myth, because George Washington did pass by this area, but that was only twice, and that was before 1790s. I think the last visit he made in this area was in 1789, and that's literally a year before he was here. The place was built. But then this chimney is restored, the bar is restored. Now just go to the parlor. So we're going to go upstairs and also look at the floor upstairs too. But this parlor right here, this was original to the time, and especially this chimney and the one over here. However, this place was also a Girl Scout headquarters. So when Girl Scouts were here, they basically covered the whole place, and then eventually after the town purchased and restored it, they were lucky enough that nothing was destroyed, and then they were able to restore it. Now, fun fact: before the Girl Scouts started living in this place, made this their headquarters, this place was only for men, because in the 1790s or even early 1800s, this place was only designed so that men can stay, because that time obviously the equal right movement never happened. So women never traveled. That was one of the major reasons. And also, like, they were not welcome in the parlor or the bar unless they're serving. And then eventually this is where people would come, and if they have money they can get themselves a bed, but mostly they would stay on the floors with most likely just a blanket. And here we have the kitchen. Again, this kitchen was initially, it was not the part of the main building, and you can tell that by looking at the size of the wall. the width of the wall. You can see initially the building was just by itself, and kitchens used to be a separate building because they were fire hazard. But then when the modern stoves came in, then that's when they just combined the both. That kitchen over there, if I'm not wrong, it was built around 1860, because that time it was you had the modern amenities, and now it's more modernized than before. But this is where they would cook the food and bring it to their guest in the tavern. Well, I think I covered most of it to the best of my knowledge. One thing I need to tell you guys before I go upstairs is that this place is haunted. The last time I was here, which was 2 years ago, I had an experience. So for that reason, I brought an EMF reader. Let's start checking if we get some signals here. Apparently, and then I'm gonna tell you guys about the history or the story of the haunted site, not sighting, but what people experience here. So apparently this stair, right, you can hear people walking up and down when there's nobody in the building. Then you can literally hear the footsteps, and there's actually a room upstairs. That's where I first had the I would say paranormal experience, but that room is supposed to be haunted. Also, before I go up, I just want to let you guys know that most of the things we have here, they're not original to the time. Some of them are donated by the people, and then some are replicas, but there is not a lot of things which were here when the building was built. So let's just go up, and hopefully we don't have any paranormal encounter. Alright. So let's just go to this room first. So this is how the housing would have been back in 1800s. As I said earlier, kitchens were not part of the main building. So you can see the gap between the two buildings. That's the kitchen right there. And this portion, the filler location, I would say, this was built after, so they can attach the kitchen with the main building. So this is how you can tell how there were initially two different buildings here. This is for the rich. Obviously you would have your own chimney, you have your bed, your chamber part, that's to heat your bed. So you would put coals in it and then put it under your blanket, and that would keep you warm throughout the night. And this is where obviously you do your number one and number two, basically mainly number two, and that's how it was. And then when families started traveling, this is basically where they would stay. They would hire a proper room and then stay together, because obviously there was limitation on space. So let's see if this place is haunted or not. Now this room is good. Let's just go to the room next door. There's a timepiece. And now we're going to this room. Also here, today they have the exhibition. This is a model of the tavern. You can see how it looks. But initially this is one of the rooms where people would stay. They would pay for their space on the floor, and they would just sleep for the night, because this was the Stagecoach Tavern. And back in the time before the whole modernization, modern train, cars, stagecoach houses were where people would stay. And this is how it was. And that's the privy, that's the well. And I'm gonna show you guys the privy when we leave. This is used to be the store. Now there's a house there. There's a 2-story building. This is the tavern. And then obviously now the portion is divided between the cemetery and the tavern. And yeah, so this is it. Then we have some of these historical artifacts here. So this is the tavern construction viewing window prior to the tavern's 1800 enlargement. The exposed vertical post was the end post at the building's northeast corner. The slot in the post marks the spot where a diagonal brace connected the post to the horizontal beam that ran between the east and the west wall. The floor below clearly shows where the building originally ended. So this is basically, I think, where the original building ended, and this is the expansion or the part that was expanded afterwards. But this is it. I can touch here, but again we have some more historical artifacts, boots and boot jack slippers. All right, and this is the bedstead rope key. So here it says that the phrase sleep tight and don't let the bed bugs bite came from basically this, because back in the time, obviously, in order to sleep tight you have to have a sound sleep, and in order to do that you have to have a bed which is free of bed bugs and also which is properly tight by the innkeep. So if the bed is not tight enough, you cannot have a sound sleep. So this was a very necessary tool back in the time. Let me try to show you from the side as well. And this is the chamber part. So again, we have seen one of this like in the room next door, but this is how it used to be for washing your face, and obviously the brush. But this is where you would go for number 1 or number 2. And then we would have candles here, and this is how it would have looked back in the time. This is the room where I am right now. So if we take out all of these things, this is how it would look like. So this used to be the assembly room, and according to the information I have over here, back in the time the assembly rooms were built so that they can use as a bed chamber, or if you have a meeting or a public gathering, you can have it in the assembly room. Basically they were mostly of the time they were built on the second floor so that it's more convenient. This is how it used to be in this room, and that's just an example of assembly room by Benjamin Henry Latrobe from 1797. But this room had its purpose, otherwise it would have been just like straight up divided. There would have been balls around here. I'm mumbling at this point, but this was a very necessary room for the time period. And then when there is no assembly going, or there is no meeting going on, you will have people sleeping on the floor, because again the bed goes to the wealthy, like the one we saw in the room next door. And we have an Egyptian mummy. Look at that. So let's see. Again, this is the old map of Rahway back in 1856. This is how it used to be. Let me just close up a little bit so you guys can see how it was. And one thing I need to mention before I leave this room, that the road we see over there, that's the St. George's Avenue, and this was the main road that used to connect New York City to Philadelphia before train took over. And that's why this stagecoach house was very important at the time, because there were very few buildings in between where people could stay, rest, and then continue their journey. And this is one of the locations where they would come and sleep. Obviously, even like today, back in the time, people didn't have that much luxurious life. People who had the money, they would come and then obviously get a bed. But mostly people who would walk, or they were using a stagecoach, which is equivalent of having a bus today or a train today. They would come and stay here and just sleep for the night. And as the technology progressed, the importance of this place became lesser and lesser, and eventually what happened was that people stopped coming here because they wanted to stay close to the train stations. Because of that reason, this place started dying down, and that's when the Girl Scout took over, and eventually this place was preserved as a museum, I would say. So right here we have a chessboard and then some of the play cards, and according to the information over here, this was discovered during the archaeological excavation in 2001. And back in the time, people used to play a lot of board games, or they would play cards just to get entertainment, and that's how it was. Again, this is the grease horn greaser. Pair of grease horns or greasers, pair of horns filled with grease, were carried beneath stagecoaches and wagon to provide a handy source of lubricant if needed for the wheels or axles. So this is how they would carry grease back in the time. And what do we have here? Road from Philadelphia to New York. As I said in the beginning, the road we have back there was one of the main roads at the time. It used to connect New York City to Philadelphia. This would go through Princeton, and this is the example of the whole thing. So this is where we are right now, and you go from New York City, Hudson River obviously cross, come down here, and then eventually you would go through Philly back in that time. So let's just go out from this place. Alright, so we have this music box here. This was built by Regina Music Box Factory. The factory is closed, but the building still exists. However, the last time when I was here, I was told that whenever you play this, this is first of all a donation, and whoever donated this, they wanted this to be played for every guest. And this music box was built in 1890s. So the story goes, whenever you play this, you see, or you start experiencing paranormal activity. Last time something like that happened, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna turn it on, and then I'm gonna try to start it, and then let's see if it works. Oh yeah, we have this chest over here. This is locked. Alright, so it stopped. I would say let's just close it very carefully. So now I'm on the third floor, and this was the mid-price area, or these rooms were the mid-price room, because the second floor was the one where you would have people who are rich, who can afford some luxury in life, especially with the room with the chimney. But this is where you would have people who would come and they're just looking for a mid-price room. And from what I've heard is, I'm not sure about it, but initially the whole place was like, the floor plan was similar to the one on the second floor, but eventually they did some remodeling, and now we have 3 different rooms. Again, these rooms were built after when the renovation happened, basically between early to mid 1800s. Before that, it was just a 2-story building, and that's the St. George's Avenue, and this is it. So you see how we saw the bed tightener down on the second floor? You would use that to tighten this bed. And again, I think this is the chamber part. And last time when I was here, this is where I felt something. And according to my last tour, when you play the music box, this is where you would feel some kind of activity. So let's see if it goes off. Nothing happened today. That's pretty amazing. And again, this is one of the bed warmers. So you would put coal in it, and then you would put under your blanket, so it would keep the bed warm. And yeah, again, Rahway Avenue, St. George's Avenue, and this is Rahway, New Jersey. And that's the war memorial dedicated to New Jersey or Rahway war veterans who fought in the World War II and the wars after. So that's that right there. But I'm pretty surprised how I don't feel anything today. I mean, I don't have any readings. And this is the third room. Oh, this one is open. And from what I've heard now is that they're trying to preserve this area, or like they're trying to do some remodeling over here so they can reflect the Girl Scout era as well, because the tavern portion is the first floor and the second floor, but eventually they're going to change this room to where you can come and see what happened during the Girl Scout era. But this is a rocking chair, that's that. And the attic would have been the cheapest place because it would be warm in the summer, it would be cold in the winter, and you would just have the cheaper rooms. Let's see if we can go up. And so right now it's just storage, but this is how the cheaper rooms would look like. And I'm not going to show you the whole thing, but just this portion. And this is it again, the same road, and that's pretty amazing. So finally I'm leaving the tavern. It's nice and sunny, but it's kind of cold. However, that's where the well was, and if anybody wants to come here, they just have to come to the cemetery, or if they're looking for the exact address. This building is adjacent to the Rahway Cemetery, and they do have some tours which they offer during October or even on regular days as well. You just have to check the schedule to get the full experience. But it's a whole different part of the property actually. I said in the beginning that this was part of the main property, but cemetery, it's this individual property, and this is a whole separate thing. So I guess that is it. I hope you like this video. I hope I was able to share the history to the best of my knowledge, to the best of the information I was able to gather and to convey to you guys. But if I did miss something, it was unintentional. But as I said before, I hope you guys like this video, and if you did, make sure you like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, and do check out my other vlogs, and do let me know how you like it in the comment section. And I'll see you guys in my next video. Until then, take care. Thank you very much.